title for today's story is The Case of the Purloined Peacocks and the Passive-Aggressive HOA. Hey Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. So I, 38M, live in a pretty, unique HOA in suburban Florida. Think manicured lawns bordering actual swamp, golf carts as primary transportation, and a level of neighborly scrutiny that would make the KGB blush. The real stars of our little ecosystem, however, are the peacocks. Dozens of them roam freely, squawking at all hours, leaving, well, let's just say their presence is felt. Most people tolerate them, a few even actively feed them. My neighbor, let's call her Brenda, 60 SF, is not one of those people. Brenda hates the peacocks with a fiery passion. She's constantly posting on our community Facebook group about their noise pollution and unsanitary droppings. Honestly, it's become a bit of a running joke. We even have a bingo card for her predictable complaints. Now, here's where things get weird. About a week ago, the peacocks started disappearing. Not all of them, but a noticeable chunk. We went from a cacophony of calls to an eerie semi-silence. People started to notice. Where were Percy, Penelope, and the three little petties? Yes, some of us named them. Don't judge. Brenda, naturally, was ecstatic. Her Facebook post took on a disturbingly celebratory tone. Think passive-aggressive emojis and thinly veiled thoughts and prayers. For the missing birds, read, good riddance. Then, yesterday, my security camera caught something unsettling. Around 3 a.m., a figure in a large, dark SUV pulled up near the community entrance. They opened the back, and what looked suspiciously like a large net was visible. A few minutes later, the SUV drove off. The figure was too obscured by shadows and distance to identify clearly, but the timing, it coincided with the peak of the peacock disappearances. I posted the grainy footage on the community group, asking if anyone recognized the vehicle. Brenda immediately chimed in, suggesting it was probably animal control relocating the pests. Except, animal control hasn't been notified about any peacock issues recently, according to a friend of mine who works for the county. Things escalated this morning. Agnes, 70 SF, a sweet old lady who practically raised some of these peacocks from chicks, don't ask, noticed something peculiar near Brenda's property line. Tucked away behind some overgrown hibiscus bushes were peacock feathers. A lot of peacock feathers. And not just naturally shed ones. These looked plucked. Agnes, bless her heart, went full Nancy Drew. She started snooping, in a very polite, elderly lady way, and found a large, industrial-size freezer in Brenda's garage during a neighborhood tools swap. Brenda was showing off her new leaf blower. Agnes swears she saw something feathery inside when Brenda briefly left the door ajar. Now the rumor mill is in overdrive. Half the neighborhood thinks Brenda is running some kind of underground peacock feather smuggling ring. Apparently, they're worth something to crafters? The other half thinks she's, well, let's just say the freezer theory is a lot darker. I'm torn. Brenda is undeniably annoying, but the thought of her harming the peacocks is genuinely disturbing. Do I go to the HOA board with this flimsy evidence? Do I call the non-emergency police line and sound like a lunatic reporting stolen birds and a suspicious freezer? Do I just let Agnes continue her gentle investigation? Reddit, AITA for suspecting my notoriously peacock-hating neighbor of some foul play, pun intended? What should I do? This whole situation is getting increasingly bizarre, and frankly, I'm starting to miss the early morning squawks. Update 1, 3 hours later. Okay, things are moving fast. Agnes, fueled by righteous indignation and possibly too much prune juice, managed to, accidentally, trip near Brenda's open garage again. This time, she claimed she saw a whole frozen peacock inside the freezer. She even took a blurry photo with her flip phone, bless her technologically challenged heart. The photo is inconclusive, but there's definitely a large, feathery mass in there. A few other neighbors are now admitting they've seen Brenda acting suspiciously lately, carrying large bags to her car late at night, looking over her shoulder, etc. The HOA president, a perpetually stressed man named Gary, is trying to downplay everything, muttering about neighborhood disputes and lack of concrete evidence. I'm leaning towards calling the non-emergency line. Even if it's just to get a welfare check on the peacocks. What's the worst that could happen? Brenda yells at me? That's a Tuesday in our HOA. Update 2, 6 hours later. I called the non-emergency line. The dispatcher sounded amused, but agreed to send an officer to investigate a potential animal welfare concern. Officer Miller arrived about an hour later. He was a young guy, clearly not expecting to deal with a peacock conspiracy in suburban Florida. Agnes, armed with her blurry photo and a detailed account of Brenda's anti-peacock tirades, gave him the full rundown. Brenda, of course, denied everything, looking genuinely offended that we would even suggest such a thing. She claimed the freezer was full of bulk chicken she bought on sale. Officer Miller, to his credit, took it seriously. He asked Brenda if he could take a look inside the freezer. Brenda hesitated, then reluctantly agreed. And, you guys are not going to believe this. Inside the freezer, nestled amongst bags of frozen vegetables and what could have been chicken, were indeed several frozen peacocks. Not whole, mind you. But parts. Feathers neatly bundled. Legs. Even a frozen head with its iridescent crown. Brenda's face went from indignant to pale as a ghost. She stammered something about pest control and taxidermy project gone wrong. Officer Miller looked like he'd seen it all and nothing at the same time. Brenda was detained. Not arrested, but taken down to the station for questioning. The remaining peacocks, who seemed to sense the shift in the neighborhood's energy, started congregating near Brenda's house, almost like they were holding a silent vigil. Update 3, 12 hours later. The local news picked up the story. Peacock predator in paradise? The headline screamed. Apparently, Brenda had been systematically trapping the peacocks using bread laced with something the police are investigating, then processing them in her garage. The motive? Still unclear. Some theories floating around the neighborhood. Asterisk feather resale. Apparently, peacock feathers can fetch a decent price online. Asterisk silent protests gone wrong. Maybe she intended to scare them away and things escalated. Asterisk full-blown peacock hatred. Sometimes, the simplest explanation is the most disturbing. The HOA is in chaos. Gary is having a meltdown. Agnes is being hailed as a local hero. And I'm just sitting here, slightly traumatized, realizing my suburban life is apparently a wildlife crime drama. The remaining peacocks are now under the temporary care of a local wildlife rescue. Percy, Penelope, and at least one of the petties have been found safe. Apparently, Brenda hadn't gotten to all of them. Brenda is facing potential animal cruelty charges. The HOA is discussing stricter rules about, well, everything, probably including freezer contents. So, Reddit AITA? No, probably not. But this whole ordeal has been a wild ride. I'll update again if there are any more developments in the case of the purloined peacocks. Maybe I should start a true crime podcast about our HOA. Thanks for listening to my bizarre tale. I need a strong drink. And maybe a therapy peacock. Final update, 20 minutes later real time. Just got word from Agnes, she's become my official neighborhood intel source. Apparently Brenda confessed. Her motive? She was allergic to peacock dander, and their constant presence was making her life miserable. Her solution? To systematically remove them. In her mind, she was reclaiming her peace. The police found a surprisingly sophisticated feather drying and sorting setup in her spare bedroom. The bulk chicken in her freezer was, in fact, mostly processed peacock meat. Apparently, she'd been experimenting with recipes. The HOA is now facing a massive lawsuit from a local animal rights group. Gary has officially resigned. Agnes is demanding a neighborhood parade in honor of the rescued peacocks. And me? I'm just trying to process the fact that my neighbor was secretly running a peacock processing plant in her garage. Suburban life, am I right? Thanks for following along, Reddit. This has been an experience. I'm going to go lie down now. And maybe invest in better security cameras. You never know what kind of wildlife crime might unfold next in this crazy HOA.